The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, flat, silent, and gold beneath the dying sun. Daniel Reese had been driving for what felt like an eternity when a flickering neon sign pierced the horizon. Route 46 Motel vacancy. He was tired, hungry, and the silence of the road was starting to get to him. He almost drove past. The place looked like a relic, a ghost from another time, a cracked parking lot, a single fuel pump leaning precariously, and a row of rooms baked by decades of desert wind. But desperation won. He pulled in. The air was thick with the smell of dust and gasoline. Inside the cramped lobby, a small bell sat on the counter next to an open guest book. He rang it once. Silence. He rang it again, and a man seemed to materialize from the shadows. He was tall, unnervingly pale, and wore a motel uniform that looked as ancient as the building itself. His name tag read Earl, and his smile was just a little too wide, a little too sharp. "You're lucky," Earl said, his voice smooth as oil. "We just had a room open." He slid a key across the counter. Room 7. The metal tag was strangely cold, almost damp. As Daniel walked outside, he noticed a thin red stain on his palm where the key had rested. He dismissed it, eager for a shower and some rest. The room was basic: a bed, a table, and a single window overlooking the dunes. But an unnatural chill hung in the air, even though the AC unit was clearly dead. On the nightstand, a Bible lay open. He glanced at the page, but the words were smudged and blackened, as if they'd been scorched by fire. Shrugging off the growing unease, he showered and finally climbed into bed. Sleep was just starting to claim him when, around midnight, the phone rang. It was an old rotary phone, the kind he hadn't seen in years, and its cord wasn't even plugged into the wall. It rattled violently on the nightstand. His hand shaking, he lifted the receiver. A woman's voice, a terrified whisper, hissed into his ear, "Get out before he sees you." And then, nothing. The line was dead. He dropped the phone, his heart hammering against his ribs. That's when he heard its slow, deliberate footsteps crunching on the sand right outside his window. He crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. The parking lot was empty, illuminated only by the sickly flicker of the neon sign. But the footsteps continued, getting closer, stopping right outside his door. Panic seized him. He grabbed his car keys, his only thought to run. He threw the door open, ready to bolt into the night, and froze. The world was gone. The road, the desert, his car. Everything had been replaced by an endless, suffocating blackness. The next thing he knew, he was waking up in the motel bed, drenched in sweat. He scrambled to the window. The desert was back, but his car was gone. The road had vanished too. All that remained were the dunes and a single trail of footprints leading away into the vast, empty expanse. He ran to the lobby, yelling for Earl, but the office was deserted. A thick layer of dust coating every surface as if it hadn't been touched in years. On the counter lay the guest book. He saw his own name, written in what looked like his handwriting, but it wasn't just there once. It was written twice. He turned the page, and his blood ran cold. His name appeared again, and again, and again, filling the entire page in the same shaky script. A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. Then he heard a soft knock from a door behind the counter he hadn't noticed before. Against his better judgment, he opened it. Inside was another hallway, dim and long, lined with motel doors that shouldn't exist. A disembodied whisper echoed from the darkness. "Check-out time." He spun around to flee, but the lobby door was gone. The hallway now stretched infinitely in both directions, and every single door was numbered 7. He tried one. It creaked open into his own room, but it was wrong. The bed was unmade, the sheets stained with dark, wet patches. Something was moving beneath the blanket. Slowly, a pale, slender hand slid out from under the covers. He didn't wait to see more. He ran. He sprinted down the endless corridor, the lights buzzing and flickering like dying insects. Faint voices swirled around him, laughing, crying, whispering his name. And then he saw him. At the far end of the hall stood Earl, that same horrifying two-eyed smile plastered on his face. "You can't leave, Daniel," Earl said, his voice soft and final. "You already checked in." He raised a hand and pointed to the floor. Daniel looked down. The tiles beneath his feet were made of glass, and under the glass, he saw it wasn't a floor at all. It was water, or maybe blood, and dozens of faces were staring up at him. Their eyes were wide with terror, their mouths moving in silent screams, and one of them looked exactly like him. He opened his mouth and screamed as the hallway shattered like a mirror, and the world split apart. He woke with a jolt, back outside the motel. The sun low in the sky. His car was parked right where he'd left it, the engine humming as if he'd just pulled in. It was a dream, he told himself. A nightmare brought on by exhaustion and heat. He didn't hesitate. He got in, slammed the gas, and drove. His heart pounding, a frantic rhythm. For miles, he saw nothing but desert. The Route 46 motel was gone, as if it had never been there. Relief washed over him when he finally saw another gas station. He pulled in, needing to see another human face. He asked the old attendant if there was a motel nearby. The man's face went blank. "Son, that place burned down 30 years ago," he said, his voice gravelly. "Nobody's been there since." Daniel froze. "That can't be. I just stayed there last night." The old man just shook his head slowly. People say it shows up again sometimes. For the ones who are already lost, Daniel didn't go back to look. He drove until he reached Reno, checked into the first brightly lit hotel he could find, and locked the door. He tried to sleep, but at exactly 12:03 a.m., the phone rang. He stared at it, his body paralyzed with fear. Then the voice came through the receiver, that same soft whisper, "You forgot to check out." His hands trembled as he ripped the cord from the wall. But the phone rang again, louder this time. The mirror across the room began to fog over, and dripping letters appeared on its surface. Written backward, "Room 7 is waiting." He spun around. There, on the nightstand, glistening under the lamplight, was the key to room 7, stained with fresh, wet red. The next day, the cleaning staff found the hotel room empty. The mirror was cracked from top to bottom. The phone was off the hook, emitting a faint, hissing static. The manager, boxing up Daniel's abandoned belongings, found the strange motel key. Curious, he looked up the Route 46 motel. There was no listing, no address. All he found was a local news article from 1988. The headline read, "Fire Destroys Desert Motel 217 Missing." One of the photos showed the owner, a man named Earl Hargrove, smiling beside the motel sign. He wore the same uniform, the same NAMA tag. To this day, truckers driving that lonely stretch of highway claim they sometimes see a neon sign flickering faintly in the distance. Vacancy glowing in ominous red against the dunes. Some say they've even stayed there. Their cars are always found later, abandoned, with the doors wide open and the keys still in the ignition. But of the drivers, there's never any trace. The guest book, they say, always has new names. And if you're out there on a quiet night, and you listen closely to the desert wind, you might just hear the faint rattle of an old rotary phone, and a whisper that says, "Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't stop for the flickering lights in the desert.